Melania Trump, the former First Lady of the United States, has taken a bold step by filing a massive lawsuit against the popular talk show The View. This legal move has sent shockwaves through the media, making headlines everywhere. People are now wondering, what exactly happened on live television that pushed Melania to take such a serious step? During a recent episode of The View, the hosts had a heated discussion about Melania's time in the White House. They talked about several topics, from her role as First Lady to her personal life. Some of their comments, however, went too far. At least, that's what Melania's legal team is arguing. They believe the statements made about her were false and damaging, which is why she has decided to take legal action. One of the main points in the lawsuit is that the hosts claimed Melania didn't care about Christmas. They said she had no interest in decorating the White House for the holidays, and even suggested that she disliked Christmas altogether. This statement alone sparked major controversy, as many people remember Melania's holiday decorations and efforts during her time in the White House. But the accusations didn't stop there. The hosts also talked about the Rose Garden, a historic part of the White House that Melania oversaw during her time as First Lady. They claimed that she ruined it with her redesign, removing beautiful flowers and making it look worse. This statement spread quickly on social media, with many people sharing before and after pictures of the garden, arguing over whether her changes were good or bad. Perhaps the most shocking claim made on the show was about Melania's marriage to former President Donald Trump. One of the hosts suggested that she doesn't even sleep in the same room as her husband. This kind of personal speculation about her marriage was not only controversial, but also became one of the main reasons for the lawsuit. Melania's legal team argues that these statements were not based on facts and were meant to damage her reputation. Defamation lawsuits are serious, and winning them is not always easy. For Melania's case to be successful, her lawyers must prove that the statements made on The View were false and harmful to her reputation. They also need to show that the hosts acted with malicious intent, meaning they knew their statements were false or didn't care whether they were true or not. This lawsuit has created a major debate about free speech and responsibility in the media. Talk shows like The View are known for discussing controversial topics, often making bold statements about public figures. But where is the line between expressing an opinion and spreading false information? That is the key question in this case. Melania Trump has mostly stayed out of the spotlight since leaving the White House, but this lawsuit has brought her back into public conversation. Many of her supporters believe she has every right to fight back against what they see as unfair attacks. On the other hand, critics argue that public figures, especially former First Ladies, should expect criticism and not take legal action over opinions shared on a talk show. The outcome of this lawsuit could have a big impact on how media personalities discuss celebrities and politicians in the future. If Melania wins, it might make TV hosts more careful about what they say, fearing legal consequences. If she loses, it could reinforce the idea that public figures must tolerate criticism, even if they believe it's unfair. As this legal battle unfolds, both sides are preparing for a tough fight. Melania's lawyers are determined to prove that the comments on The View were not just opinions, but damaging lies. Meanwhile, the show's legal team will likely argue that they were simply engaging in discussion and that their statements were either true or protected under free speech laws. Regardless of the final verdict, this lawsuit has already made headlines and reignited discussions about media responsibility, public figures, and personal privacy. It's a reminder of how powerful words can be. Whether spoken on a talk show or in a courtroom, the world will be watching to see what happens next.
That's a given. I also think that she wants to take him out. She does not want to be the First Lady anymore.
They agree with you.
She doesn't want to be the First Lady. She destroyed the Rose Garden. Who hates Christmas? Melania Trump hates Christmas. She doesn't want to decorate for Christmas. She doesn't want anything to do with him. She doesn't want to sleep in the same room with him. She can't tolerate him.
Allegedly.
And she does.
Yeah, how do you know all this?
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know all this.
Melania Trump's lawsuit against The View has taken a serious turn. Her legal team argues that the comments made by the show's hosts were not only false, but also intended to damage her reputation. As a result, they are demanding a staggering $100 million in damages. But this case isn't just about money. It's about setting a precedent for how public figures are treated in the media. The lawsuit raises an important question. Where is the line between free speech and defamation? For Melania's case to succeed, her lawyers must prove that The View hosts acted with malicious intent. In other words, they must show that the hosts either knew their statements were false or didn't care whether they were true. This is a key factor in high-profile defamation cases, but it's also one of the hardest things to prove in court. If Melania wins, it could force media personalities to be more cautious when discussing public figures, as networks may introduce stricter guidelines to avoid similar lawsuits in the future. This is not the first time The View has faced controversy. The show is known for its heated debates and strong opinions, often sparking both praise and criticism. Some viewers admire the hosts for tackling difficult subjects without hesitation, while others believe they sometimes cross the line into personal attacks. Over the years, the show has been involved in multiple disputes, but this lawsuit may be the most expensive and damaging yet. One of the biggest concerns surrounding this case is its potential impact on media freedom. Talk shows, news outlets, and online platforms thrive on open discussions, and many argue that public figures, especially politicians and former first ladies, should expect to be talked about. However, Melania's lawsuit raises another perspective. Should media personalities be allowed to make unverified claims about someone, knowing that millions of people will hear them? If Melania wins, it could set a new legal standard, making media outlets more accountable for their words. This lawsuit also reflects a larger issue in today's digital age: how information spreads. In the past, news and opinions were mainly shared through newspapers and TV. Now, with social media, any statement made on a show like The View can be clipped, shared, and debated by millions within minutes. Once a claim goes viral, it becomes difficult to correct, even if it's later proven false. This is why defamation cases have become more relevant, as public figures seek ways to protect their reputations from misinformation and speculation. If The View loses this case, it might lead to major changes in how talk shows operate. Networks may start enforcing stricter editorial controls, requiring fact-checking before controversial statements are made. Hosts might also be advised to be more cautious, sticking to opinions rather than making factual claims they cannot verify. On the other hand, if Melania loses, it could reaffirm the idea that public figures must accept a certain level of scrutiny and criticism, even if they believe it is unfair. Regardless of the outcome, this case has already sparked important discussions about media responsibility. Should public figures be protected from potentially harmful false claims, or should media outlets be allowed to express their opinions freely without fear of lawsuits? The answer to this question could shape how journalism, talk shows, and online discussions function in the future. Melania Trump has mostly stayed out of public controversies since leaving the White House, but this lawsuit has put her back in the spotlight. Her legal team insists that this is not just about her, but about protecting all public figures from reckless and damaging statements. Meanwhile, supporters of The View argue that the show is simply exercising its right to free speech, and that public figures should not be able to silence media discussions through legal action. As the lawsuit progresses, all eyes will be on the courtroom. If Melania wins, it could send a strong message that even famous figures deserve fairness and respect in the media. If she loses, it will likely reinforce the idea that free speech allows for strong opinions, even if they sometimes upset those in the public eye. No matter what happens, this case will leave a lasting impact on how the media approaches discussions about public figures.
Let me ask you this, because I do want to get back to this point with the left and Melania Trump. Why can't she just be her own woman and have separate?
And she can.
And so why all that criticism? I mean, that was gross from The View. And look, The View is not the litmus test of America. We don't think that.
They were afraid of that remark. That was their problem.
So why did they handle it that way?
Melania Trump's lawsuit against The View has sparked a heated debate across the country. Some people believe the talk show's hosts were simply expressing their opinions, which should be protected under free speech. Others argue that the comments crossed the line into personal attacks and that Melania is right to fight back. The lawsuit is about more than just money. It raises important questions about media responsibility, free speech, and the power of public figures to control their own narratives. One of the biggest questions surrounding this case is whether Melania's lawsuit is truly about protecting her reputation, or if it's a strategic move to influence how she is portrayed in the media. As a former First Lady, she has been in the public eye for years, facing both praise and criticism. But this lawsuit suggests that she is no longer willing to let certain comments go unchecked. Her legal team is pushing hard, arguing that The View deliberately spread false and damaging claims about her, and they are demanding a massive $100 million in damages. On the other hand, The View is standing by its hosts. They argue that their discussion was part of an open conversation about a public figure, not an intentional attack. Talk shows like The View thrive on debates and strong opinions, and many believe that holding media personalities legally accountable for their words could have a chilling effect on free speech. If Melania wins, it might set a precedent that forces TV networks to be much more careful about what their hosts say on air. If she loses, it will reinforce the idea that public figures must tolerate a certain level of criticism and speculation. This case is also a reflection of how media operates in the digital age. Decades ago, controversial comments made on a talk show might have faded away after the episode aired. But now, with social media, everything spreads rapidly. Clips from The View are shared across platforms, turning small remarks into viral controversies. This makes defamation cases even more relevant today because once a damaging statement is out there, it's nearly impossible to take back. Even if a talk show issues a correction later, the original claim has often already done its damage. So what happens next? This lawsuit is far from over, and it is likely to involve multiple court battles before a final decision is reached. Legal experts say that proving defamation, especially for a public figure like Melania, is extremely difficult. Her team must not only prove that the statements were false, but also that they were made with malicious intent. This means showing that The View hosts either knew they were spreading falsehoods or didn't care whether their statements were true. That's a high bar to clear, but if Melania's team succeeds, the impact could be huge. If she wins, talk shows and news networks might start enforcing stricter guidelines to prevent similar lawsuits in the future. Hosts may be required to fact-check their statements more carefully before discussing controversial topics, which could change the way live television works. On the flip side, if she loses, it could reaffirm the principle that public figures must expect and tolerate criticism, even if it feels unfair or misleading. Regardless of the outcome, this case has already become a major moment in media history. It raises important questions about where the line is drawn between fair commentary and defamation. Should talk show hosts have more legal responsibility for their words? Or should public figures have to accept that being in the spotlight comes with criticism? Public opinion on this case is deeply divided. Some people believe Melania is right to stand up for herself, arguing that media outlets shouldn't be allowed to spread damaging claims without consequences. Others see this as an attempt to control the narrative, worrying that it could set a dangerous precedent for silencing media discussions. It's a debate that goes beyond Melania and The View. It's about how society balances free speech with accountability. This case could become a turning point for all talk shows that discuss public figures. Moving forward, networks might have to decide whether it's worth the risk to make bold claims about celebrities and politicians without clear evidence. At the same time, journalists and commentators might have to think more carefully about how they frame their discussions to avoid potential lawsuits. No matter where you stand on this issue, one thing is certain: this legal battle isn't going away anytime soon. It will continue to be a major topic of conversation, not just in court, but across the media and public discussions. As the case unfolds, more details will emerge, and people will watch closely to see what kind of impact it has on the media landscape. What do you think? Should media personalities be held to stricter standards when discussing public figures, or is this lawsuit an overreaction? This case is about more than just Melania Trump. It's about how the media, free speech, and personal reputation all interact in today's world. No matter the outcome, it's a story that will be remembered for years to come.